Good evening, YouTube, and welcome back to another episode here at Wildman Lifts. I'm your host, Wildman. So on today's episode, I have a real treat for you. Tonight, I'm going to be working out on the safety squat bar. It's also called an SSB, which is basically an acronym for safety squat bar. Now, there's many different kinds of safety squat bars out there. This is the most typical one that you'll find if you're going to purchase one on your own for your home gym. The nice thing about this is they're supposed to be shoulder friendly. However, since I find that the shoulder friendly method actually gives me impingements in my shoulders, I actually do this implement a little bit different. So let's jump in and let me show you what I'm doing today. So on this evening, I was using the Titan SSB, or safety squat bar. Now this oddly shaped thing is actually meant for reducing shoulder impingements. You'll see right in here, there's some straight handles that come out and attach to this that brings your hands forward and actually makes the lift easier at the bottom. But that used to give me shoulder impingements when I would do that, so I kind of switched to a different style. So this is the style that I like to use when I use an SSB. I put my hands out wide. And it does several things. Number one, it makes the bar more upright. So it's more of a high bar back squat. And it also pitches the weight forward a lot more. And for my giant set format, I'm going to be doing pull-ups in between the SSB squats. And I'm also going to be doing some monster tire flips. This is just mainly to get my conditioning going and to practice some strongman movements in between. And flipping a tire is just plain fun. That's really the reason why I do it. And I'll be doing some sledgehammer strikes as well to work my core, my shoulders, and to do some good movement pattern. So that's going to be the giant set format, but for tonight, I'm actually going to add the chain. And I went with the chains tonight because mainly it was freezing and I wanted to do my workout, but I also didn't want to bear the full weight of it, especially when I haven't used SSB in a while. I'll also be adding weight to my pull-ups, and that's going to go up as the rounds continue on. And I'll continue to do the tire flips and the sledgehammer strikes in between. But really, the only things that are going to keep going up in the strength portion is going to be the SSB squats with the wide hands and the pull-ups. I'm just going to keep adding more and more weight to that. So I didn't film the tire and I didn't film the sledgehammer strikes between every single set. I think you get the gist that that's what I'm doing. But this format worked out pretty well. My legs and my whole body was pretty warmed up by the time it got to my top sets. Now this was kind of surprising to me. I've set the chains a little bit higher than I normally do, and I added a little bit more. So that's 50 pounds of chains, and they don't quite depress all the way into the ground on every lift. And that made this a lot harder and more of a gradual fight. And for the pull-ups, I like to do pull-ups and I like to add weight because I treat this more as a semi-compound movement. I like to use my whole body and get my whole body into the mix and not just my back and my arms. When I do my volume sets, then that's when I'll do it. But when it comes to weighted pull-ups, I'm more of a fan of keeping my feet on the ground and actually using my feet to jump into the movement a little bit more. And I'll do a whole separate video about that coming up into the future. Now this was supposed to be my top set. And I'll tell you right now, it felt so heavy at the top, mainly because of that awkward positioning. You could see when I get into the hole and I'm coming up, the weight pitches forward and I have to kind of fight that weight back. Now I'm training like this on purpose, believe it or not. This is actually a very good implement to do for a strongman. And I felt like I still had one more rep in me, so I added 20 pounds more to the lift. So this was 400 pounds total. And it was definitely a fight through the middle, but believe it or not, I was actually in control the whole time. It just moved very slow. I wasn't like at risk of losing it or anything, and I knew that, and that's why I added the 10s at the end. I think maybe like at the beginning of summer, I want to say, I hit 400 pounds on the SSB bar without any chains. So I'm definitely capable of it. But since, again, I haven't done it in a while, it was just kind of best to do some baby steps before putting that weight on. Whoa, I did better than I anticipated. So good for me. Now, the reason why this movement on this bar is a lot harder than a regular back squat using an Olympic or standardized barbell in your gyms is for 3 reasons. The first reason is because of the shape of this bar actually sits higher on my traps. So on a low bar back squat, usually the barbell is below your traps and is being held up by your upper back like a shelf. This allows you to get into a much more position of advantage when squatting and utilizes more muscles than a typical high bar squat. So this essentially is a high bar squat, which typically people can lift more weight with a low bar back squat than they can with a high bar back squat style. The second reason why this is so hard is because your hands are out wide. Typically on a low bar back squat, your hands are closer together, so you're able to utilize your lats a lot more. Because I'm putting my hands out wide, I'm unable to use my lats as a stabilizer. So in turn, makes it that I'm pitching all the weight forward onto my quads and virtually without any help from my lats. And the third and last reason this makes this so hard is coming up from out of the hole. As I come up from out of the hole, the bar pitches forward onto my neck and I have to fight that weight back up. Now, a lot of people wonder, why the heck would you train like that? Isn't that really bad for your back? And it can be if you do it incorrectly. However, if you train this right, this is a great movement to train with stones. Stones is the same exact movement from the lap to your shoulder. And if you can make that part of your body very strong and very efficient, then stone lifting becomes easier. So I actually use this implement to get stronger with stone lifting, and that's why I train this way. It's also a very good variation lift of the back squat if you're just trying to try something new and get away from the back squat for a while, which is what I wanted to do tonight. Now let's move on to the variation giant set. Now I'm going to do for my giant variation set, it's going to be 3 rounds of weighted pull-ups. And this time I'm only adding 25 pounds to my body weight, and I'm only concentrating about my back and my arms. I'm not putting my feet to the ground this time or using any momentum. So that'll be 3 rounds of that with 7 reps total. And I'm going to leave it simple just for tracking purposes. It's easier for me to track my reps if they're even and my sets. So I'm going to continue to do my monster tire flips in between my weighted pull-ups, and I'm going to continue to do my sledgehammer strikes, just again so I can keep track and keep everything even when I'm trying to figure out what I need to do for an entire month. And for the giant assistance portion, I was going to work up to a heavy SSB front carry, and I'm doing 30 meters or 100 feet total. I would take it from the rack, walk it to a designated point, and then I would turn around and place it back onto the rack. And the goal was within 3 rounds to work up to a heavy set. Now the SSB padding makes it easy to get into the front carry position, but it's much easier to walk in a straight line and not turn like this. Turning like this made this way harder than it needed to be, which I actually enjoyed, so I didn't mind it that much. But this was 330 pounds, and I haven't done this in a while, and it like cut off my air. Like here, I was fighting to breathe. And when I turned around like this, I was losing control of the weight. But granted, I was able to muscle through it and get it done. And in between those sets, I was doing, I think it was 30 meter or 100 feet of walking lunges. On my squat days, I really try to isolate my quads, and walking lunges is a great way to do it. And I was doing ab mat sit-ups in between as well. So that was the giant set for assistance. Now for the giant accessory sets, I was doing 3 rounds of rope supination curls, face pulls, the ever so famous face pulls, which are oh so important to the workout, and flutter kits to target that lower abdomen. And that was the giant accessory. It's very cold outside right now. And so like I've been encouraging everybody lately, if you're going to be working out in the wintertime, try to dial back your weight a little bit and work your way up again, because in the cold winter months, this is how injuries occur, because blood is unable to get to the joints a lot faster than they could if it's summertime. These SSBs are a very good purchase, in my opinion. If your commercial gym doesn't have one, I encourage you to encourage the gym owner there to purchase one of these, because you can use them for a lot of different variation lifts. And one of the best variation lifts, if you're going to be a strongman, is to put your hands out wide like I showed you tonight and to do squats in that manner. It'll really help with the stone to shoulder. And you can even use these things for loaded front carries like I just demonstrated earlier. So these things are a fantastic purchase. Thanks for joining me tonight, and I'll see you next time.